Hello and welcome to this online tutorial in the series of the Jesus online tutorials on how to use PIAAC data. Today I will present to you a video on how you can use the EdSurvey package to analyze PIAAC data. This package is quite handy because it handles a lot of the methodological challenges that PIAAC poses to researchers. I will walk you through an R script that was created by Luca Holricher and myself, where we will deal with the example research question of how to predict literacy using a variety of both categorical and continuous predictors. This script, of course, will be available as well. Please be aware that I assume that you are familiar with R and RStudio. This is something that I will not explain in the video. So if you are not familiar with these software packages, then it might be a good idea to watch a video on those first and then return to this script. But other than that, it's really a beginner's video, and I hope you can understand what we did. And I wish you every success in dealing with the PIAAC data. Here you can see the script that you will have available for your own use afterwards. And I will now walk you step by step through the script that uses the EdSurvey package for the PIAAC data analysis. And I will show an example of an analysis, which is an analysis to predict literacy in adults with low to moderate levels of education. And I will show you in a minute what definition we use for this, for these levels of education. We want to test several predictors. We want to test gender, age, the test language as native language, which is an indicator of the migration background, the level of education, how much people read at home, and also the motivation to learn as a predictor of literacy. The EdSurvey package has a function that allows you to download all the public use files that are available from the OECD website automatically, and also the codebook that is needed to use the EdSurvey package, where you can find information on the variables. And you can either use this and then you have everything in order and everything in the correct folder, but you also have to download all the countries, which is quite a lot of data. If you don't want to download everything, you can also use only one country file. You can download it from the OECD website as well. But then you have to make sure that it ends up in the correct folder, which is the folder where EdSurvey is looking for it. And that you also download the international codebook, which is available on the same website as the public use files. I have written down which file path you will have to use for the data file if you have only the one data file. So this is the file path where EdSurvey is looking for the data. This is of course your username on your PC, and then it's the stand documents folder, and then you have to have a folder that's called PIAAC and cycle 1, and in this folder you have to store the data file and also the codebook to make EdSurvey work with it. So if it's not there, then you will get error messages. And this is an example of what these data files have to be named. If you download it from the OECD website, then it's automatically this name because they're all named like this. But if you have it from somewhere else or maybe have used it before, then you have to make sure that it's the same, that is this name, because the EdSurvey package is tuned to use this name. So what are we going to do next? We first load the required packages, which is the EdSurvey package, and then we have two other packages that we need for the descriptive data analysis. And then I have put down the download command here as well, but as I said, I will not use this. We have this attribute DOI for Germany, Deutschland, because this is data that we use. And then we have this read command. So you can as you can see here, I have the read PIAAC command, then this is where the data is stored, and then the country's short name is DOI. And you can also, of course, read in data from several countries, but I will only read in the German data. And this is only because I have used the German data before, so it has already a cached data set to use. But you can see here in the global environment that now I have a data set loaded. And once you did that, you can also have a look at the codebook, because it is also loaded in the same step as the data is read in. So this is what the codebook looks like, and then you can look up the variables that you need, for example. We will just check quickly how we can have a look at the data. First one is this one. This is an item from the Motivation to Learn file, and you can just get the program to show you the first lines from this variable. So the first line doesn't really have a lot of data, it just has some of the different answering options. And you can get a table of the different frequencies that you have in the different answering or response options. So this is what it looks like. And you can also get a summary for a variable, and then maybe that looks a bit nicer. We have a table with all the different response options, and then how many people use this response option, both in the sample and then the weighted case numbers for the whole population. So our first step for the analysis is that we have to reduce the data file a little bit, because the data has information from all the sample, like from the whole population, and it also includes adults with higher levels of education. But our research question is only created for the low to moderate levels of education. So first we have to get rid of the persons that we don't want to have in our sample. At first we can search for a variable that includes level in the variable label to find out which one is the variable that holds information on the highest level of education. And if you do this, you can get such a list of variables that has a label with level in it. So that's quite a lot of things, and then you can have, because this is a little bit too small, this screen, but normally you have a table and you see this is the variable name, and then this is the variable label, and then you can see which one is the variable that you are looking for. In our case, the variable is called B_Q1A. And to see what kind of responses we have in this variable, we can use the summary option. It's a summary command. So these are the different response options that we have, and you can also see how many participants we will lose if we exclude the academic people, and also the ones with the foreign qualification. But that's okay, we only want to have the ones with the low and moderate level of education. And then we use a subset command, which means that we create a new data set, which is then called DOI2. And in this data set, we only include participants who have one of these responses in this variable. So only the ones who responded to this variable with one of these levels of education. So we just run this one, and then we check the results. And we can see that it did what it was supposed to do. Here we have ISCID 4, and then it goes on with ISCID 5, B5A, etc. And when we do that again, the same command in our new data set, you can see that we have successfully excluded all the participants that have ISCID level 5 or higher. Next, we will have a look at the variables that we want to include in our analysis and prepare them for the analysis. Because as you could see in the other variables that we had a look at before, sometimes we have response options that count as a valid response, but that you don't want to have in your independent variable when you include it in the regression analysis. So we have to make sure that all the variables are in a way that we want to have it in the regression analysis. First one is gender. We only want to have a difference between male and female participants. So we have a look at the summary, and here we can see that it's already in the way we want it to be. Then we have the age variable. This is also a categorical variable where we have age groups, but they are all in the same distance. So we want to treat this variable as a continuous variable so that we can compute a mean for these variables, because otherwise we will have a lot of dummy variables in our regression analysis. But we can do that with this command as numeric. So we just tell R that it should be treated differently, and then we just run this command, and then we have changed the characteristic of this variable from categorical to numeric. Then we can set standardize this variable, and then we can get some of the classical descriptive statistics like the mean, the standard deviation, min and max and range, etc. Next variable up is the test language. Here we have only two options for the answers that we also want to have. And then we have 4 cases that have used a different response option. And we deal with this by just getting rid of these 4 people who didn't answer one of the response options that we want to have in our analysis. So it's again the subset command. And then we can just say, okay, these 4 people can be excluded from the analysis. Regarding the level of education, we already know what's in this variable, but we want to collapse these 6 categories into only 2 categories, because we only want to have a difference between the low and the moderate level of education. And we can do this by recoding the first 3 response options into low and the last 3 response options into moderate. This was done with 2 separate commands here. And again, at the end, we look at the summary and see if it worked okay. And it did. We have a low and we have a moderate now. And by the way, you don't have to change the numbers in 0 and 1, what we would normally do to have a dummy variable, because the EdSurvey package does this automatically, so that's not a problem. Next up is the reading at home variable. This is again a categorical variable that we want to treat as continuous, and we do the same thing that we already had with the age variable. And then we can have here a mean, and we have treated these response options as a rating scale on an interval level. Now we have everything ready to do the regression analysis, which is actually pretty simple. The data preparation is what takes more time. We have a regression function in the EdSurvey package, and this regression function takes care of the sampling weights and the replicate weights and also the plausible values that we have in PIAAC. So all we have to do is that we tell the package what is the dependent variable. So what do we want to predict? We want to predict literacy, which is lit, and then the package knows what to do. And then we have all the different variables that we have prepared as predictors, and then we tell them which data set to use. And that's it. And then if you just run this function, you have run the function and you have run the regression analysis, but you can't see anything. So you have to again ask to get the summary of what you did. And then this is the summary of the analysis that we ran. So it tells you once again what it did and what it used to run the regression in terms of methodology. And then it tells you about the coefficients. And here again, the screen is a little bit too small, otherwise it would be a nice table with everything next to each other. And then it also tells you which of the coefficients are significant and which are not. And the summary is just the summary as it says, and there are other options that you can get in terms of output. So that's it for the regression. Now we have one more challenge because we have one variable, the motivation to learn, that we want to have a look at. And this is not a variable that is originally included in the public use file. In the public use file, we have a total of 6 different items, which are supposed to be the readiness to learn scale. But in my research, I have reduced them to only 4 items because these are the 4 that have a motivational content. And you can also see from factorial analysis that the other 2 items don't really match the 4 that have the motivation as a content. So I want to have one variable, one new variable that is an indicator for motivation to learn, and I want to have the mean of the 4 items that are motivational items in my view. Now, it is not possible to have the same EdSurvey data frame and just change the variables, like compute a new variable for this data frame. If you want to do that, I mean, you can recode and you can get rid of variables and you can get rid of participants, but if you want to create a new variable, then you have to create a new data frame, which is called then a light EdSurvey data frame. And you cannot match this one back to the original data frame. So if you want to work with your own variables, you have to make sure that you, when you create this light EdSurvey data frame, that you create all the variables that you need. So the first thing we do is that we have these DOI2 data set. That is the one that we used in our previous analysis. And then we extract a new data set and with the get data command, and we tell the package that we want from this data frame, which is an EdSurvey data frame, these variables, and then it automatically creates the EdSurvey light data frame. And then also we want to treat these categorical variables as numeric. I'll just run this, tell you what it's like. So we have now here another data set, and you can see that it's a kind of a different format because it tells you here how many cases are in the data set and how many variables, and we didn't have that beforehand for the EdSurvey data frame. Then we compute the mean across these 4 items, and we tell the program that this is a new variable which is called motivation, and then you can check what is the mean. The mean is 3.62 from on a 5-point Likert type scale, and then we can put this together with the DOI2, but it's still a light data frame. So the DOI raw is what we have used like as a step in between. And then we have this new variable in our new data set, which is the DOI3. And you have to do the rebind attributes because otherwise it's not connected to the codebook and to all the methodological information that you need in the EdSurvey data frame, EdSurvey package, sorry. And then we do just the same. We have the same function that we call for the regression analysis. We have the same predictors, but we have this predictor as one additional variable. And we again have the summary command in the end. And it looks pretty much similar to what we had before. You just have this one more variable. And I haven't scaled this one, so you cannot interpret this in terms of standard deviations, but of course you know how to scale the ones and to standardize the variable if you want to. Okay, so that's what can be done with the script. Finally, I have just included some of the commands that may be useful if you want to do descriptive statistics or if you want to compute some of the descriptive statistics, for example, for a paper. This is how you can get the correlations. You tell, you call the correlation function, and then you give the names of the different variables that you want to correlate, and the data set, and then a method, and then it gives you this correlation. This is only for two variables at a time, so it's a bivariate or bivariate correlation. Then you can have the frequencies, but you know this one, the summary command. And you can also get some table that is grouped by something else. So you can, for example, see how males and females have scored in the literacy score. So this is that you get the literacy by gender, so grouped by gender. This is a command that may be useful. And what we already had before is a describe command, which is from the psych package for continuous variables that you get the mean and the standard deviation and the min and max, etc. Now we are at the end of our little online tutorial. I hope it was clear enough, and I hope you enjoyed watching the video. Have a good time, and bye-bye.